Now our math problem, margin versus markup. We've had some different math challenges and quizzes looking at the t-shirt business. This time we're going to switch to bicycles. Now it's really important when you're setting your price to know these two concepts. What is your margin? What is your markup? So I'm going to go through kind of explain a few of the terms here. And then your challenge is to try to figure out, in this example, what would the margin be and what would the markup be for this bike scenario. So imagine you've started a bike shop and you are buying your bikes for $150 and you're selling your bikes for $200. So what we need to do is figure out first of all, what is the margin is equal to gross profit divided by revenues. What is the gross profit? The gross profit would be our revenues for selling the bike, the $200, minus what we buy the bike for, $150. Those are kind of the associated costs with this one bicycle. It doesn't cover the fixed costs of the business, things like rent or salaries or things like that. It's just looking at how much money do we make for each individual item that we sell, in this case a bike. So that's the first step for margin, is calculating your gross profit divided by your revenues. So you need to think about what would that be, your gross profit divided by revenues. And if you wanted that, it's going to give you a decimal, kind of a fraction answer. If you want to turn that into a percentage, you just multiply that by 100. So try to calculate that at home or wherever you are at school, what the margin is. Margin shows kind of what percentage of profit you're earning compared to the overall revenues of what you're selling. Now the other concept is markup. It's different. A lot of times people will think they're the same thing, but they're actually not. Markup is gross profit divided by cost of goods. Now what is cost of goods in this situation? Well, it's $150. That's what we buy the bike for. So if we divide it by the cost of goods, rather than dividing it by the overall revenues, we end up with a different number. And if we multiply that by 100, that also gets turned into a percentage as well. An example of markup would be if we buy, let's say we buy this cup here for $10 and we sell it for $20, that would be 100% markup. In other words, we're selling it for twice what we bought it for. Whereas if we, let's say, sell this if our cost of this is $5 and we sell it for 10, again, that would be another example of 100% markup. So markup is different than margin. Okay, so that is your math question for today. You can try that, and later on our website, we're gonna have the answer to that question. So we're gonna just take a short break. When we come back, we're gonna get into the design segment, 2-point perspective with Arya. Enjoy. Hello, welcome to the Design Make Play Math Challenge answer to the question about margin versus markup. So here we've got that bike we're selling for $200. We're buying it for $150. So to calculate the margin, that's going to be equal to the gross profit divided by the revenues. Now the gross profit is going to be our selling price minus what we're buying it for. So that is the 200 minus 150 will be our gross profit, and so that is 50. So that is our gross profit. We divide that by the revenues, so the 50 divided by the $200, which is the revenues or the sales. And what is $50 divided by 200? That is 0.25. 0.25 times 100 is 25%. So our margin when we sell a bike for $200 that costs us $150 is 25%. So that is the margin. The markup is a little bit different. The markup is the gross profit divided by the cost of goods. So the gross profit we've already calculated here is $50. And so the only difference is instead of dividing it by the revenues, we're dividing it by the cost of goods. So that would be equal to $50 divided by the cost of goods, which is what we bought the bike for, $150. So that's 50 divided by 150, and that is going to be equal to 0.33, etc. On and on, 0.333. And if we multiply that by 100 to turn it into a percentage number, then it ends up being 33%. So the markup is 33%, the margin is 25%. And that shows you the difference between margin and markup. Thanks for joining our Design, Make, Play math challenge for the day. Take care.